When you buy your first home, you expect peace. You expect safety. And for my girlfriend and me, it felt like we finally had that dream. A quiet neighborhood. A backyard for our cat, Bella, to roam in. A place where we could finally breathe after years of renting cramped apartments. But peace didn't last long. From the very beginning, something felt off. Not about our house, but the one to the right of it. It looked abandoned, half renovated with tools left behind, windows covered with old plastic, and a gaping space where a fence should have been. That missing fence left both our backyards wide open, and behind that abandoned house was yet another property where several young men lived. At first, we didn't think much of it. We assumed they were friendly neighbors or maybe even friends of the owner who had given them permission to cut through. We'd occasionally see them walking through the open backyard, cutting across to the street. Harmless, we thought. Just guys taking a shortcut. That illusion shattered on our very first night. We were sitting in our backyard, admiring the stars and talking about how lucky we felt to have our own home. I happened to glance up toward one of the houses behind ours and froze. A man was staring at us. He stood at a darkened window, face barely visible except for his eyes. He wasn't hiding it either. There was no attempt to be subtle. Just standing there, watching. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe he was curious about his new neighbors. Maybe he was zoning out and just happened to be looking in our direction. But half an hour passed, and he didn't move, didn't blink, didn't look away. Eventually, my girlfriend and I went inside, locking every door behind us. The next few days were normal enough. I went to work, she unpacked boxes, and Bella seemed to love the new place. We tried to laugh off the window incident. Then came night 2. We were back outside, talking under the stars, when we heard something at the open backyard entrance, a wooden plank being dragged aside. 3 men stepped through, uninvited, like they owned the place. Can I help you guys?" I asked. One of them, barely older than us, held up a large plastic bag and smiled in a way that didn't feel friendly. "Need any washing up tablets? Got plenty." They were offering us stolen cleaning supplies. I tried to joke it off, saying we were fine, but it felt wrong. These weren't neighbors being neighborly. These were people testing boundaries. They left as suddenly as they came, and I tried convincing myself it was a one-time thing. It wasn't. They kept coming back, each time pushing further, cutting across the yard, peering into our windows, sometimes just standing there in silence until we noticed them. My girlfriend and I are both 20, and there was no mistaking the intimidation in their behavior. Then one day, 2 police officers showed up, not at our door, but lifting the broken fence and checking out the abandoned property. They didn't say a word to us, just looked around and left. I figured maybe someone had called in a complaint about squatters or drugs. A few days later, officers returned, this time knocking on our door. The house behind us? Vacant. Those guys, evicted for antisocial behavior, not just toward us, but toward other neighbors too. We were relieved. For about a week. One afternoon, I was taking a bath when I heard a loud bang outside. I jumped up, threw on clothes, and found my girlfriend at the spare bedroom window with her phone recording. "What's happening?" I asked. She held up a finger, eyes locked outside. There, in the backyard of the abandoned house, stood a man we'd never seen before. He looked up directly at our bedroom window, pointed at it, then sprinted full speed toward our house. On his way past, he yanked our front door handle before jumping back over the broken fence and pounding on the abandoned house's windows. We called the police immediately, who came, watched the video, took a statement, and left. That night, the fear settled in. A few nights later, we were woken by whistling outside. A mocking, taunting whistle men sometimes use to harass women. It was 2:16 a.m. We stayed silent, listening. Then came tapping on our bedroom window. When we finally got the courage to check the camera feed, nothing. Whoever it was, they were gone. The next morning, we found our Ring doorbell on the ground, its SD card missing. Someone had deliberately removed it. When we reported it, the operator quietly admitted it was likely an escalation, possibly a sign they were planning something worse. And they did keep coming back. Whistling, window tapping, staring from across the street for hours. One night, we looked at the live feed and saw a man standing on our lawn, hood up, mask over his face, arms spread wide like some kind of twisted crucifixion pose. He stared up at our bedroom window, head tilted unnaturally. We froze. He didn't say a word we could hear, but we saw his mouth moving before he finally walked across the street and stood there, watching. For 30 minutes. Police did nothing. "It's not illegal to stare," one officer said. After that, every small noise at night set us on edge. Then it escalated further. One night at 2:52 a.m., we got another motion alert. Two masked men, one carrying a crowbar, shined flashlights into our windows. We stayed as quiet as possible, terrified to even breathe too loudly. They eventually left, but their message was clear. We can come back anytime we want. For days afterward, the same masked man stood across the street during daylight, waving, pointing, shouting things we couldn't quite make out. Always staring, always reminding us that we weren't safe, not even in our own home. The police still haven't done much. We've installed new cameras, reinforced locks, and file every report we can, but the harassment hasn't stopped. We don't know what they want, why they chose us, or how far they'll go. All we know is our dream home feels like a trap now, a place where we're constantly watched, where every noise in the dark could mean someone is right outside the window. And worst of all, we have no idea when this nightmare will end. You ever feel like the world is messing with you? Like random people know something about you they shouldn't? That's where my life has been for the last few months. And it all started after I broke up with Caleb. Caleb wasn't violent, but he was controlling in that subtle, psychological way that's almost worse. He didn't scream, he didn't throw things, but he tracked my phone activity, questioned my every move, and had this way of turning my life into one long interrogation. After nearly 2 years, I finally left, changed my number, deleted all my social media, moved to a new apartment. I thought I was free. Then, one Tuesday morning, I stopped by this little coffee shop near my new place. Nothing special, just a quiet spot to grab an espresso. I stepped up to the counter, and the barista smiled at me. But something in that smile froze me. "Morning, sunshine," she said. Sunshine. That was his nickname for me. Caleb's. And not a sweet one either. He used it sarcastically whenever I was upset, a passive-aggressive little jab meant to make me feel small. I brushed it off as coincidence, ordered my coffee, and told myself I was being paranoid. Until it happened again. A few days later, I took a rideshare to work. Different driver, older man, maybe 50, kept looking at me through the rearview mirror. Halfway there, he asked, "Ever figure out what you're running from?" My blood went cold. Caleb said those exact words once, dead serious, after I told him I needed space. Now a total stranger was saying it, casually, like an inside joke we both knew. And it didn't stop there. A woman bumped into me at the grocery store and whispered, "You don't get to just disappear." A guy passing me on the street muttered, "Still wearing your hair like that, huh?" Even a co-worker I barely talked to said, "You always liked this song," while humming the song Caleb always played during our fights. Different people, different faces, same expressions, same eyes. I started to feel paranoid, like I was losing my grip. So I did something I swore I wouldn't. I contacted Caleb, not directly. I sent his sister a message. "Tell him to stop. This isn't funny." She replied the next day, confused. "What are you talking about? Caleb's in rehab. He's been there 6 weeks. No phone, no visitors." I didn't believe her. I thought she was covering for him. But then she posted a photo of him on Facebook, holding a sobriety chip, looking pale and sunken. He really was in rehab. So how did strangers know these things? That night, I worked late. I didn't want to be home alone because my apartment felt tainted somehow, like it wasn't really mine anymore. Around 10 p.m., I walked home, headphones in but no music playing, my way of staying alert. As I turned onto my street, a man in a hoodie sat on the stoop of the building across from mine. His head was down, hands in his pockets. "Cold out tonight, huh, sunshine?" he said without looking up. I froze. Then I walked past him, not saying a word, heart pounding. When I reached my building, I double-locked the door and sat on the couch for hours, just listening. Eventually, I fell asleep. The next morning, my doormat was flipped over. I live alone on the top floor. Nobody just accidentally walks by my door. On the underside of the mat, in sloppy ink, were the words, "You can change your face too if you want, but I'll still recognize you." I threw up. Then I booked a hotel room for the weekend, leaving everything behind. The hotel clerk gave me a room on the 4th floor. It felt safer until 2 a.m., when there was a knock on my door. 3 slow knocks. I waited. 3 more knocks. Peeking through the peephole, I saw a woman, maybe in her 40s, face completely blank, eyes fixed on my door. She didn't move, didn't say a word, just stared. I held my breath until she finally walked away. The next morning, the front desk swore no one should have been on that floor. It was empty except for me. That's when it clicked. This wasn't random. Someone was feeding people my details, things only Caleb would know, and sending them to me like living reminders of him. I remembered a conversation months before our breakup. Caleb mentioned some online forum, something about shared tactics and life optimization. At the time, it sounded like one of those productivity communities. Now I wondered if it was something darker, a cult, a stalking network. Whoever it was, they weren't breaking into my apartment, but they were breaking into my life. I moved again, changed my hair color, went dark on social media again, told friends and family not to share my new number or address. It worked for about a month. Then last week, while walking home from the bookstore, a woman passed me on the sidewalk and whispered, "Still hiding behind books, sunshine?" She never even looked back. I don't know what's happening anymore. Maybe Caleb paid some underground service to keep this going for a year. Or maybe it's some twisted online game. Who can scare sunshine the best? Who can get closest without touching? Now every stranger's face is suspect. Every glance feels loaded. And the worst part? I'm starting to forget what normal even feels like. I can't trust anyone's face anymore. My family isn't the adventurous type. We're homebodies. Cookouts in the backyard, movie nights on the couch, same vacation spot every year. So, when my aunt suggested a getaway to one of Michigan's Great Lakes, it was out of character, but exciting. We all agreed. 18 of us, parents, cousins, siblings, booked a massive Airbnb that somehow fit us all. The house sat right on the beach. From the back porch, you could see endless water stretching to the horizon, like an ocean that never ended. Most of us stayed in the main house, but because of our numbers, a few of us got assigned to a second building behind it, a 2-story garage with bedrooms upstairs. I was one of the unlucky ones. The garage wasn't filthy, but it was old and neglected. The carpet in the bathrooms had that permanent musty smell, the bed linens were stained, and the latch on the door barely worked. My cousins, Maria, Nikki, and Jesse, were all grossed out. They refused to sleep on the beds until we washed the sheets. No problem. I offered to do the laundry. The machines were tiny, so we could only wash one set of sheets at a time. While they hung out upstairs, I went up and down the stairs running loads. By midnight, I'd finally finished mine. But my cousins wanted theirs done too, so I kept going. At 2:37 a.m., the last load was done, and we finally made the beds. Nikki insisted on leaving the light on, just in case. And while they all fell asleep quickly, I stayed up scrolling through my phone. I'm a light sleeper, always have been since the break-in back at my old apartment, and my ears catch every little sound. That's probably why I heard it first. A loud bang against the garage door, like someone had thrown their whole body into it. I froze, listening. No footsteps, no voices. My cousins didn't stir. I told myself it was probably wind or maybe a raccoon. Then it happened again. Another heavy crash, strong enough to rattle the walls. This time, I sat up straight. Still, I said nothing, because saying something would make it real. The third crash hit 20 minutes later, loud enough to wake Nikki and Maria. "You heard that too, right?" Nikki whispered, eyes wide. "Oh yeah," I said. "That's the third time." "No way that's wind," Maria said, pulling the blanket tighter around her. Nikki grabbed her phone and texted her mom, my aunt, who immediately woke my uncle. He came outside, along with my dad and 2 older male cousins. We stayed upstairs, listening to the sound of footsteps crunching on the gravel outside. Then came knocking. "Open up! It's us!" my uncle called. We rushed downstairs and let them in. The look on my uncle's face told me everything. This wasn't kids messing around. He said there was someone out there. A man standing behind the garage, just watching. When my uncle yelled at him, the guy didn't run. He just walked away, slowly, disappearing behind the trees. We grabbed our stuff and moved into the main house that night. Nobody argued. Even though it was crowded, people sleeping on floors, couches, anywhere there was space, we all felt safer. Or at least we thought we did. Around 4 a.m., my mom, who was sleeping near the big picture windows in the living room, woke up to the sound of footsteps on the porch. She didn't open her eyes, too scared of what she might see. Then came the rattle of the basement door handle, weak lock shaking as if someone was trying to force it open. My brothers and male cousins were sleeping downstairs, oblivious. By the time my mom ran to check, no one was there. We were supposed to stay until Tuesday. We left Monday morning instead. On the drive home, we pieced together theories. Maybe it was a neighbor who hated Airbnb rentals. Plenty of small-town locals despise them for disturbing their peace. Maybe it was just some random creep who saw a house full of tourists and thought it'd be fun to scare us. But then there were the jester cards. Yeah, jester cards. One was found in the main house and another in the garage, left on the nightstand like calling cards. Both showed twisted, demonic-looking jesters, smiling with dead eyes. One cousin said jesters symbolize mockery, and considering all the banging happened around 3 a.m., the so-called devil's hour, it felt like we were being taunted. My uncle swore the man he saw didn't run like a normal person would. He just stared, then walked into the darkness like he wanted to be seen. And when my aunt followed my uncle outside, the door to the main house slammed shut behind her, even though there was no wind. We called the Airbnb host, who promised to check the security camera above the garage door. But we never heard back, which made us wonder, did she know the man? Was he local? Or was this something darker? The weirdness didn't stop there. On the first day we arrived, my sister and cousin walked down to the beach and passed a woman next door. She didn't greet them, didn't smile, just stared with a cold, expressionless face. At the time, we brushed it off. Now it felt connected somehow, like we had stumbled into something we didn't understand. Whatever it was, it worked. It scared us off. That was our first family trip, and after what happened, maybe our last.